I'm going to talk about a very interesting topic. I'm actually going to show you 10 power phrases that I wish I had known very early in my career. These are game-changing phrases that flips buyer resistance on its head. The kind of stuff that I'm going to talk about is something which turns "I'm not sure" from your buyer into "hey, let's go." And isn't that music? Getting your buyer to tell you "let's go." This happens without sounding salesy or sounding pushy at all. These are phrases that I consider to be what I call pressure release valves. Once you know how to use them, your sales conversations will never feel stuck again. They will just feel very different. Hey, hi, I'm Dr. Deepak Bhutra. I'm someone who's been leading global teams. I've coached sales rock stars and high performers like you, and I train organizations to sell smarter, not just harder. What I'm going to talk about are not just hacks. These are battle-tested, psychology-backed phrases. I use these phrases, I teach them to sales pros across various industries. So stick around, and I'm going to give you a language that I think will help you move a conversation with the buyer forward. It's very powerful. Let's try it, right? Power phrase number 1 is I call the game changer. Let's start with what matters most to you. Where should we begin? This is your opener. You're not leading with your agenda. You're giving the buyer control, and it's control that he gets right out of the gate. And what's the science behind this? The science is pretty simple. It's actually called autonomy bias. People are more open when they feel like they get to steer the conversation. What you're saying is, hey, you Mr. Customer, you go first. I will meet you there. This builds a foundation of trust. Imagine this problem solved. What's different for you? That's the second one. You want the buyer to visualize success. This taps into something called mental contrasting. It actually helps your customer see where they should be. Think about it. So next time when you're talking to your buyer, drop this in. When a buyer is stuck with features, price, or stuck with indecision, instead of trying to pitch harder, you give them a mental window into what they want and let them sell themselves. Take them forward. Number 3, before we move forward, what's one key question we need to answer? This is your momentum realigner. Let's say the buyer sounds lukewarm, something's off. Buyer's not showing the same passion. But instead of guessing, you pause and you hand them the pen. What's one thing we need to figure out before we go further? It makes it safe for them to express doubt, and that gives you clarity instead of silence. Number 4, what would be true for this to be a no-brainer? This is actually one of my favorite value reframers. Because instead of you defining what's good, you're asking them, what would be so obvious that you would move today? It gets the buyer to reveal their internal criteria for action. That's what you want. Whether that's faster time to value, maybe it's a lower upfront cost, or maybe they're just looking for an easy rollout, right? It brings your buyer's priorities to the surface, which means you can actually solve for them. If we had to strip this down to the essentials, what stays? That's another powerful one. Ever been in a deal where there were just too many cooks, too many requests, or it's starting to get out of control? This phrase cuts the clutter. It shifts the focus to what really matters. This is also what I call a simple way to reduce cognitive load. I admit it's a very fancy way of saying something very simple. When you give someone too many options, no decisions are going to happen. You have to simplify so the buyer can breathe and move on. Number 6, let me make sure I've got this right. Here's what I'm hearing. You don't need to solve the objection immediately. What you're doing is you're actually mirroring it right back to your buyer. This phrase tells the buyer, hey Mr. Buyer, hey customer, I'm paying attention, I get you. When people feel heard, they stop resisting. Simple truth. This is psychology 101. Validation always calms a nervous system, not just yours, but theirs. Drop this right after big share or hesitation, and the tone of the conversation will shift almost instantly. Number 7 is really powerful. Let's pause for a second. Are we heading in the right direction? Sometimes things just feel off. You're not connecting, and the energy is weird. Instead of pushing through, you stop and check in. This phrase is just a simple phrase, but it gives the buyer permission to recalibrate without friction. It's not weakness, it's strength. It shows you care more about real alignment than sticking to a rigid script. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how you build trust. I'm going to move to my favorite. And it's not the last one, it's number 8. Other companies in your space face the exact challenge. Here's what worked for them. I think you've heard this one before, right? I call it third-party storytelling. Here you're actually tapping into social proof. Buyers don't want to feel alone. They want to know others have stood where they are standing and made a good decision. And it's your job to show them that. This is your moment to show you're not the first one, Mr. Customer. This works. Others got through it. So can you. But here's what you really need to do. You gotta make it specific. You cannot keep it generic. You keep it generic, you're losing that connection, you're losing that opportunity. Let's go on to number 9. And I'm going to put it as simply as possible. Let's zoom out for a second. How does this align with your bigger priorities? Now, what you've just done is, when you think that things are getting too tactical, when you feel that you're lost in features, integrations, you need to bring the conversation back to strategy. You got to lift the conversation up. Buyers often lose sight of the why. This phrase reminds them, It puts the deal back in the context of their goals, your pipeline. You are selling, you're closing, figure it out. And when you change that focus, it becomes their initiative, not just your solution. And this is important, very important. Let's move on. Last but never least, we will solve this together. I've got your back. Sometimes the buyer's just stressed. They've got internal politics, they got budget pressure, they got uncertainty. This is where you stop being the seller and start being the partner. This phase is about psychological safety. It's not just about words, it's about posture. It's got to be something about them. It tells them, hey, Mr. Customer, you're not alone in this. I'm with you. And remember, you're in the game of high stakes selling. That is going to make the biggest difference. So let me wrap up. Here's the truth. These phrases aren't magic. They only work if they come from the right place. Genuine curiosity, confidence, and calm. But when you do use them intentionally, you will feel it. You'll see the buyer lean back in. You will notice the conversation soften. You'll see resistance melting. So try some of these this week. 2, 3 maybe. Don't overthink it. Just drop them where they fit. Don't force fit. Watch what happens. If you like what you just heard, hey, as always, please subscribe. There's also a little cheat sheet that we're going to include in this talk for you. Take it, distribute it, give it to others. I'd love to help. Find some time with me. Remember, the right phrase at the right moment can unlock everything. Like I always say to everyone that I coach, don't sell harder, please. Just sell smarter.